A-Star, we created the ability for people to just go experiment. It was free, and I'll put that in quotes because obviously there's cost to implement, but you could use the resources of this team. There had some great data scientists there, and the idea was you just pitch an idea, and then if we say, yep, it's one of the 6 or 7 we want to do in the next cycle, you get to go with your idea, come back and present to the CEO and the management team 6 months later. Some were successful, some were not. So some of the ideas that came up, they came up not just the typical data ones that come up from the marketing teams about location-based lift and offers. You hear a load of stuff about that, right?
Yeah.
And of course we do all of that.
Yeah.
But the fun thing was that the compliance team started coming up with ideas, and the audit team, and the operations teams, and the HR team, and finance, and everybody in the company started to say, hey, we think we could have a go at trying this. And just a couple of those examples. One was the HR team, which were having, one of the big issues we have is churn for salespeople. They churn, very, very high churn rates.
Yeah.
And so they said, well, can we use the models to try and figure out when people are going to leave before they hand in their notice? And why? Because then you can get to the manager and maybe coach or help out or do everything else to prevent them from
I caught that
leaving.
part. I think you worked with 71 variables. Yeah,
71 different
did you
variables.
have to have like data scientists to help you come up with all those?
So here's the fun thing, right? We sort of go with the principle that analytics is important, data will follow the analytics. And so we just started to pull data from everywhere. We just got in a room, a bunch of people, say, what are all the possible things that might affect whether or not someone's going to leave? Just wild brainstorm, whatever we think, you know. And then we figured out, actually we can get some of this data. So it's a little bit like, you know, assembling whatever you've got, rather than waiting for 2 years to have built the warehouse. Say, oh, we can't do this because we don't have this. It's like, use what you can. And that's what the team did, and we used training records, we used attendance records, medical leave records, you know, what subjects did you study, you know, what did you do in your spare time at college, you know, when did you, how soon after getting the onboarding did you start your training, did you complete it? When we had a call list of customers, did they call all of them, in what order, when, and all sorts of stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then just pushed everything into this big kind of machine learning washing machine. 29 of those variables turned to be predictors that gave some sort of positive lift. We're using mainly random forests and gradient boosting machines to actually predict that certain thing, but it doesn't matter what we use, it's an ensemble of models that came together. And yeah, some really, really high indicators that give us this 85%.
So two questions, like I think you achieved nearly 90% accuracy rate?
85% lift in the ability to predict when somebody leaves. Now there's, you know, that's made up of, you know, you get some false positives. The model was leaning towards over predicting, but that's okay. We'd rather over predict than under predict.
Okay.
But it's around 85% over a 3-month period. Yeah.
So, but this application would be something you would use within DBS.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Could you also talk about like the infrastructure you had to put in place to allow this to happen?
So to start to build the models, you know, you can build all of this stuff on desktop computers. You don't need, because you use a smaller sample size of data, and then when you expand the data, you can start to build out, which is where you start to need some of the Hadoop and the software that we use behind that. The modeling that we used was R, and that's just because R is used widely in the universities and in the science community, but it can be any one of the models. It could have been, you know, Spark on Hadoop. It could have been whatever else. Right? So and actually what we do is once that we've created the model, which can be just sort of you know, somebody playing around, you know, then you have to industrial strength it and build the platforms around it and access controls and all of that kind of stuff to make it enterprise ready. Yeah.
So that's what's next. That would be your end goal, to make it enterprise ready.
Yeah. So that's done, I think, for this one. We take these models in several stages. So, you know, is it showing promise? Does it show lift? Then we build it and industrialize it and then start to